I'm speaking to the parents now in the audience, that you have to take an active role and make sure that your kids are being shown things that are age appropriate. So I say that just as a point of caution. But to that point, if you look at all the old fairy tales, Russian now we're live.
Oh, we're live.
The light is very bright. Hey everyone. This is the reason why I invite him, just so you know. This is the reason why. Hello everyone, welcome to the Academy for Adventures podcast. I'm your host, Mauro. Welcome, Arthur. I think this is your third time that you've come back. Is it the second? Is that the third? Okay, if it's the second, then it's the second. Then maybe I just
Could be the third.
could be the third. Whatever, second or third, either or. Where we talk about adventure, battle, growth, and beauty. Today is a topic of personal and passion interest that relates to both of us. We've both been lifelong video gamers. I've been playing video games since I can remember. I think the first time I saw a video game, I was about 5 years old. And I remember it very distinctly. At least the earliest memory I have is I went over a very good friend's house back then, where I was raised, and he had a PS1. This would have been like 1998. What about you? What's your earliest memory? Video games?
Earliest? When did the original Game Boy come out? Was that before PlayStation 1?
Yeah, I think it was 96, 90. Like the original Nintendo Game Boy.
Yeah, like the brick. The gray brick.
So the gray brick? I think that was 89. You can fact check us on that. But I think the Game Boy was either 89 or 90. Yeah, the original Game Boy. And then Game Boy Color came after.
I would say the original Game Boy. Although there were some other things that's like off-brand, all kind of strange technologies. Like I remember my dad got my brother and I this thing. I can't believe I remember it. I think it's called a Cybeco. Something weird like that. And it's like this little device that looks like a scientific calculator that you can play games on it.
Yeah.
Like something tiny like that.
Well, I remember to that point, I remember when I was a kid, we had actually graphing calculators. I mean, a little bit older than a kid now, probably like 10, 11, 12 years old now. So entering adolescence, and I remember the graphing calculators that I bought, you could actually download games on them. And I actually remember playing, there was one in particular, I think it was called Brick Boy or Brick Man. Those of you that know, bro, that game was very addictive. It was very fun though. You just literally just stacked bricks, and then you had to get from. It was like it was like Mario but simpler. But that's what it was. Yeah.
Do you remember what was one of the first video games you and I played when we met each other in 4th grade?
Oh gosh, it would have either have been. It would have. I mean, I remember we battled a lot with Pokemon. I remember that. But there's another one too. There was also Advanced, what was it called? Advanced System Wars or something like that?
Advanced Wars.
Advanced Wars, yeah. That was another one that I remember that was early on.
So the one that I remember it's true. We played a lot.
We played a lot.
It's hard to say which was the first one. But
right.
That is iconic for me. I'll never forget that experience.
Oh my gosh, that was so fun. Yeah. So, as you can see, like we're people that we love video games, we care about video games, and so today we just wanted to really explore the idea of video games as an art form, and weigh in. for whatever my opinion is worth to you, but weigh in on where we stand on video games, because I know that there's a lot of people that are very pro game and very anti game. And so we wanted to give a what we feel is a balanced perspective on that, because we were raised with gaming. And so I've been through phases of life, I will share openly, where I know for a fact that I played too much. Like there were probably I can share openly, like there were probably weeks of my life. I remember one summer in particular where, oh gosh, it must have been like more than 60 hours a week. Granted, I was 13. It's like, does that really matter in the longest scheme of things? But my point is that I've been through the portions of gaming where it can go wrong, and then I've been through portions of gaming where I just completely just cut back and didn't play a single thing. So I'm coming at it from an angle of understanding the pros and cons. What do you have to say about that, or add to that?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, with anything, yeah, same here. There have been times where I've played too much, and that's not good.
Yeah.
But there definitely is a good out of playing video games, and it definitely is an art form to make a great video game. I mean,
to keep you captivated,
to create anything.
Yeah. Stellarly beautiful.
Yeah. So the creation of video games is just one type of way to express creation of some sort. You can create anything, create art, create recipes, food. So
yeah,
to create a great video game is a skill and an art.
Yeah. So I guess that's certainly our first point, is establishing that video games in their proper place are a valid form of entertainment, and I would say are a valid form of storytelling in particular, because we live, one of the positive things about our age is that we live in an age that can take people's ideas, take their creativity, and express it visually and captivate people through story. And I think that a good video game can truly do that. A good video game, I remember when I was 12 years old playing Final Fantasy IV on the Nintendo DS. It was a remake, and it was made with new graphics, which at the time for a mobile device were stellar. And I just remember just being sucked into that world and truly being captivated by it, and thinking, I'm on this quest, and I'm following this story of this fallen knight that is wrestling with his identity, Cecil, and he's just wrestling with this love that he has, and trying to find where she's at, and then his best friend who was tempted by the dark forces in the game. And I just remember just being, wow, like that's real, like that's a real beautiful story, and just being swept into this story of adventure and meeting allies, and allies that make sacrifices, and seeing these castles and these landscapes and fighting these monsters. So it's like, I remember that as an adolescent, that was mind-boggling to me. And so even as I talk about it, like there's a sense of awe and energy and enthusiasm that just radiates through me right now as I'm talking about it. So there's a lot of positive things that can truly be taken from games.
Yeah, I wanted to add to that. What you're saying reminds me of how similar video games are to storytelling books, that these types of media immersing you in a story, connecting you with characters or certain themes, and there's a lot you can learn from that. Even when with movies that are violent or others that are peaceful, it's like there isn't anything. I don't think there is anything inherently wrong with having a violent movie or the extreme opposite. Like maybe we should learn about what it's like to be in war. It's like that's a very real thing. It's like
Yeah.
it's not wrong to
It's not wrong to explore the topics of violence and war and to portray it
right.
in a story.
Yeah. So video games is just one way to express something, express a theme, teach a lesson.
And I know that that's been a point of contention. And if you are a parent that has a young kid and you're concerned about video games being a vehicle to violence, I mean, I'm a certified life coach, business coach. I've mentored at this point hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids. And I can tell you that the video games, of course, there's reason why games have ratings, right? And so if you are concerned about games maybe introducing your child to themes that are maybe are not age appropriate, then as a young father now, I have a 5-month old, so my kid is still years off from that. But yeah, you have to take an active role. I'm speaking to the parents now in the audience that you have to take an active role and make sure that your kids are being shown things that are age appropriate. So I say that just as a point of caution. But to that point, if you look at all the old fairy tales, Russian folklore, Greek, insert whatever culture you want, they're all violent, If you read even before, way before Grimm's, I mean, I'm talking about ancient fairy tales, and they're bizarre and they're strange and they don't make sense, but they're fantastical. So video games are like that, they're fantasy is a way to teach and to show and to explain very difficult and challenging real world themes in a way that doesn't disarm your child. Like I genuinely believe that. I think it's actually a form of preparation, almost like a rite of initiation. And I think that's the reason why kids like eat up video games, they eat up fairy tales, they eat up stories, they eat up because they know it's not real. They know there's a part of them even at that young age that understand this is not real. Like so they're not shocked by it.
Yeah. And I think there are many factors that will play into what the behave in response to what they're watching or interacting with
For
is.
sure.
I mean, it's with anything. If we're just focusing on one particular aspect, like parenting, it's like parenting is so important, and the way what you teach your children and other people around you will affect how they respond to certain things. So
You're going to learn much more from your example than you will by what you say. Yeah.
So, for example, like, I've been exposed in various ways, like in what I've watched and interacted with. In this case, we're talking about video games with violence, but thankfully, I grew up in a household where they taught me how to deal with violence, and that in certain situations, typically you don't retaliate violence with violence, and you retaliate in a peaceful way with love, or in what we've learned growing up as Christians, that you turn the other cheek, or you show grace and mercy. So it's like the violence I learned didn't cause me to be a violent person. I learned how to deal with it.
Yeah, and I always add an asterisk because of my experience being bullied as a kid. That doesn't mean that you don't stand up for yourself. That doesn't mean that you don't equip yourself with the skills, because I've been training martial arts now for over 17 years. And one of the things you bet that I'm going to teach my kid is how to stand up for himself, because and there is a way to show grace and love. You don't necessarily always have to fight back physically, but you do have to fight back in the sense that you have to stand up and say, hey, look, like, that's not cool. I'm not going to just take this. No, I'm not going to, if I don't see there's a physical threat, then I'm not going to respond. But I also believe that there is a way to balance. And I think that video games can also teach that, because if it's a good game, the hero will have to participate in violence and in battle, and he'll have to fight back. And one of the things that I love in particular about role playing games, RPGs, is that the hero is oftentimes, and you want to talk about classic stories, right? You want to talk about video games as an art form, like it's the classic hero's journey, hero's myth, just retold over, and I just eat it up every single time. Like I know it's the same formula, but I just don't care. Like the formula works. So I always will go back to Japanese role playing games where I feel like they've mastered it. At least Square Enix is a company that I respect a lot. Where you want to talk about art form, I mean the music, the visuals, the storytelling, the characters, the plot, the everything is just bundled up, and obviously they have a huge budget. I mean they hire total complete symphonic orchestras. Oftentimes Square Enix they'll hire the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra, which is like the best of the best. I mean, Japanese
Incredible.
musicians are, they're second to none. And so you want to talk about art form, so there's all these elements that are playing into the battles where you see this hero, like he stands up, he's take a stance, he fights back against the villain. And so these and more, I feel, provide the necessary, because I notice how I said necessary. They provide the necessary framework and groundwork for people in the real world to fight back. Because you need to have a myth to draw from. That's a position that I will die on a hill on. Like you need to have a myth to draw from and to stand on to fight back against the terrors of life. I truly believe that because I don't need to sit here and tell you the terrors of life. You know what they are. We're constantly, in all but name, we're in World War III. There's like being 4 wars right now being waged, right? It's like, and if I don't get the number right, that's not the point. But we're caught in this world of chaos with scandal after scandal and places that we trust. And this is the world that the hero oftentimes is placed in. Oftentimes they come from a small village, mom and dad are either killed or one of them is killed, both of them are killed, the village gets burned down, and now the unlikely hero has to find some allies and try to restore. Right? So that's the point that I want to talk about is how video games oftentimes they're coming of age stories, right? Where you have to leave the familiar, or even worse, the familiar that is taken from you. And you find yourself in this area of confusion and you're just trying to say, okay, well, what do I do next? Like if that's not life, you tell me what is. Like think about when you graduate from high school and you're like, okay, the familiar is gone. What do I do next? Do I go to college? Do I talk to this guy that I know that maybe he made some money doing something? Do I go to the armed forces? And so this these fantasy role playing games can oftentimes be a great metaphor. And so I'm putting this because a lot of people look at games. It's like, well, why am I going to let my kid, or why am I going to waste 5, 10, 15, 20 hours of my life or more, in a fantasy world that has no use? And that is my first point of rebuttal, is that there's a lot of good use in games. There's a lot of good skills that can be learned, but not all games teach the same skills. So you have to look at that, because I can tell you as a coach and as a consultant, I don't know if this is providence from the Lord or what, but there have been many times in my career where it was a happy coincidence that I happened to be reading a book or playing a game that somehow or other related to a coaching contract that I had or a client that I was dealing with. And I'm like, just happened this week. I'm reading this book called Liturgy of the Wild. And there was a point in the book where I'm like, I'm going to use that in my next coaching session. So it's like, I feel that games can do that often. Good art, that's the point, is that it doesn't matter if it's a book or a movie, as Arthur was saying, good art form, good artwork will provide you with real world value. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the many, many different genres of video games that exist. If we just take the RPG role playing game genre, I mean, just that alone dissect that so much. Like, for example, very well-known games such as Skyrim. That's one that many people know. In that game, you can to choose how you go about that world, what skills you're going to learn, how you're going to use those skills. Like, you can essentially be a blacksmith and mine your own materials,
Yeah.
and smith your own weapons.
That teaches you about the grind of life, because it's like that's how it is. It's boring, monotonous work that you have to keep doing, but you do that for a while, and then you keep leveling up, and then you get better resources, and so
yeah,
that's a great analogy for life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the concept of leveling up is very analogous to real life. Obviously, we don't have a stat meter in real life, and like boom, like
I'm working on
after this podcast, it's like I just gained like 30 experience points. But in a way, it's like it's like I'm being exposed to a podcast, and now I'm a little more familiar with how to do a podcast.
Yeah,
I've learned something. I have gained experience.
You have,
just not in the form of numerical points.
Right. It's hard to quantify certain things, right? But my point and his point is that there are a lot of different ways, particularly in the role playing genre, which I find are very, very, very useful for life because you have to assume a role. So, how many roles do we assume every day, right? In my case, like I have the role of father, I have the role of husband, I have the role of son, brother, I have the role of coach. And so when you play these role playing games, they're essentially exposing yourself to different roles. And I find that can be very useful for life. And we focused quite a bit on that because I find, at least for me in my experience and what I tend to gravitate towards, I find that those are the simplest and easiest ways to explain video games to people that haven't played them. But video games are just nowadays, they're just so vast and there's so many different genres and there's so many different things that you can do in video games now that in many ways, they become a simulacrum for life. I mean, there are even simulation games. You got Farm Simulator, you got Goat Simulator, you got Car Wash Simulator, you've got, it's like games that I would have never thought people would want to play, but people love them.
Yeah.
What was the other one that I laughed at the other day? Vending Machine Simulator. Like, come on, it's like, you can buy these games, they're out there, like they exist.
Yeah. The fact that so many people played so many different games just shows you that there's so many different personalities and
very quirky personalities. Oh, I'm very quirky, but yeah.
and it shows that people value different things. I have good friends who really, really enjoy Farming Simulator and
that's so funny.
Power Wash Simulator, and they're just hosing down a car or hosing down a house, and like, I personally wouldn't find enjoyment in it, but it doesn't matter, and I'm not mocking that at all. Like,
I'm not mocking that.
It's great that people love that. There's other people who love city builders,
strategy games, yeah.
And when I come home from work, like a long day's work,
I don't want to build this. I don't want to build a city.
Yeah, I don't feel like being an urban planner.
I laugh at
my leisure.
My brother-in-law is in city planning, and so like I imagine him like in his free time. Maybe I'm gonna ask him after this. Do you build cities on your free time?
Yeah, and that's cool.
Maybe he does.
Yeah.
He's into gaming a lot, so I don't think I've ever asked him about that, but I will.
Something else that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
Something that I highly value is the concept of discovery. So that is the reason for why there's certain games that I really enjoy. Like, for example, there's a really cool game called, it'll come back to me later, but essentially you're in a submarine and you're working with some buddies and you're trying to Barotrauma is what it's called. Barotrauma is the game, and so you're working together with your team, and everyone has a different role, which is really cool.
I get it. It's a play on words. Barotrauma. Got it.
Yeah. So you're exploring the ocean depths, and you encounter all kinds of weird ocean creatures in there.
Barometer.
Yeah. But everyone has their own role. One person's the captain, one person's the mechanic, the electrician, and or the security officer, and it's really cool to work together. So there's camaraderie, but there's also the exploration aspect of going to the deep depths of the ocean. Or I love the concept of exploring outer space. So any game that's just outer space, like I fall for it.
Yeah.
But the concept of discovery, I think, is awesome, and the way you go about designing discovery is an art form, and I think discovery plays a vital part in what satisfies like the human soul.
Yeah, because we're searchers I would say, I think it's so ingrained into us that we're made to search, we're made to forage, right? And so I remember, like, I've played so many different games, and I remember even me, where I thought I would not enjoy it, but I actually do. Like the initial parts of the game where it's like, okay, you gotta look for a tree, like you gotta go find the tree and chop it down, bro, and get some wood, And I think to myself, am I even going to enjoy it? It's like, no, I actually like it. I like just going around, getting my little virtual axe and like chopping down the tree, and I'll do that like 50 times, and I don't mind it at all. But because I think it's just so built into us, this need to explore and to forage and to search.
Some games do it well, some games don't.
That's another point. Yes, it's very important that you said that. This is another thing, especially if you're on the outside looking in. You have to understand that not every game is built equal. It's not like you can just go to GameStop and pick a game and like pick 3 games and like those games may be the same genre, do a very similar thing, but they can be in 3 different tiers. You can have like a D tier game, a C tier game, and an S tier game. And that's why, like, going back to a conversation that we had off camera last week, the importance of about reviewing games and like people's perspective on reviewing games. Yeah,
I have an example that came to mind.
Yeah,
and I won't name the game, just I don't know, in case that is an issue.
Save face, yeah. Or to get this video blocked for whatever reason, which I doubt, but who cares?
If you've played it,
If you play it,
there's a particular game where you can fly your spaceship to many, many planets. And which is a very cool concept. I've enjoyed this game for many. However,
I would say, is it NMS?
Well, now people know.
Well, NMS it could stand for nobody likes M&Ms in the sea, but right. Yeah, you can take that at a grain of salt.
It may or may not have the acronym NMS. So there. Let me just start, since now it's already just.
That's okay, yeah. But I think we've done our due diligence.
There are many amazing things about the game.
Yeah,
and they've actually come a long way in improving the game. It's like night and day. It's amazing. It is an amazing game. However, there's a mix in opinions on how the game goes about exploration and discovery. And what's ironic is that despite it having nearly infinite number of planets and places you can explore, people get bored of it so fast.
That's so interesting.
Because it follows a particular formula.
And the formula is repetitive.
So I think there's something about repetition and how you go about that. Like balancing repetition and randomness.
Yeah.
Which
right.
exploration to be done well.
And talking about, what I'm gonna keep doing is I'm gonna keep tying it back to art form. So like that example, that is something that, whether if you realize it or not, is very important in art form, because something needs to be familiar enough to strike a chord within you, something that you know, but it also has to have an element that you don't know. So teetering that edge in art form is very difficult. And that's a reason why, like, you'll notice this in music, for example. Music is the perfect music, if you want to call it that, has a very, very, very good balance between chaos and order. It's chaotic enough that it's like you want to listen to what happens next, but it has enough order that it's like, okay, I know what this is. And then video games have to constantly balance that. Because if it's just random all the time, they're like, okay, well, this just doesn't make any sense. But if it's so familiar and it's so repetitive, then it's like it just gets boring, you know? Yeah. So you felt this game in particular, I guess they failed on that front.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
some people like it.
Yeah.
I enjoy. I guess if there's like a balance or like a spectrum of one extreme is total randomness, and then the other extreme is total repetition.
Order,
total
repetition.
I fall more on like the randomness side, so I like seeing something different. This also ties back to one of the other genres called a roguelite.
We were talking about this too. Roguelike versus roguelite. Light like. Yes.
Yeah.
Tongue twister there.
Regardless of the one which sit on. The point is that with those particular types of genres, they're all about having a different experience every time you play. But there might be meta progression, which means that even though your playthrough was completely different this particular time, you unlock something permanent. So if you get a sense of progression, like what you did during that time you played mattered,
and you got something for it, right? Yeah. And that is a great analogy to life, right? Because sometimes you're gonna go down and do endeavors, and maybe the endeavor failed. And as an entrepreneur, I can certainly relate to this a lot. I would say probably if I had to quantify the amount of projects that I've done, I would say probably 70 or 80% of them were failures. But every single time I did that, I got something from it, you know? And I also remember, if you look at the hero's journey, as I mentioned earlier, oftentimes a good story will show someone that goes on a quest and they get this sacred treasure or this sacred item. Oftentimes they have to decide, okay, what am I going to do with this? Am I going to keep it for myself? Am I going to take it back with me? Or am I just going to leave it? You know? And so good games will put that in front of you. And just like in life, you take that experience and you say, okay, I'm going to take this with me. And I'm going to what I would do is not only am I going to take this with me for me, but I'm going to share it with others. Right. And so games like roguelike games, you can go through I guess you want to call it a campaign or a run, and you go through the run and you get something, and now that becomes a permanent element that you do the next time. So that is like life, you know, you get something every single time you try, right? And the idea is that hopefully you get better and better and better and better, and you don't make the same mistakes, right? And there are games like that, like roguelike or roguelite, that mirror that quite well. Yeah. Vel.
My favorite video game genre is a roguelike.
Yeah.
Very good game.
Easy to pick up, get into.
Yeah.
Play.
One of my favorite games.
Play on the toilet if you're me.
Right. Yeah. Risk of Rain 2 is a great one.
I'm
trying to not name the ones I don't like because I want to be nice.
Yeah.
But I'll name the ones that
don't worry, I'll indirectly name them. Yeah. Nobody likes M&M's in the sea.
Right.
NMS.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I said when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago or last week. Then we started to like overthink it and realize that a lot of things are roguelikes. Real life is a roguelike. I mean, you don't start over, but with the things that you're learning, it's like there's something permanent you're gaining throughout the way. Like there's a lot of similarities, a lot of takeaways you can get from video games and tie it to real life.
Another element that I want to talk about is like knowing when to stop. I think that's important because there have been moments where I've been playing games, for example, and it's kind of like when you're eating pizza, like the first three slices, unless you're, well, I eat a lot, but don't take my quantity for yours. But the first few slices are very good, but it gets to a point where it's like, all right, like enough pizza. Games are like that, you know, and with anything really, there can be such a thing as too much of a good thing and too much art, you know, and it's kind of like
Yeah.
where you have to just say, okay, like I'm gonna, this was good,
Mhm.
you know, like because I know that video games can be addictive by definition. They are. I mean, I know that there were points of my life where I was, but because I was just spending too much time, too much enthusiasm, whatever. And I also have a personality combined with mild to moderate ADHD, which means I can also get addicted to things very easily, especially if they're things that I like. You know, so I know looking back, they say hindsight is 2020. Like I know for a fact that I was just hooked on games too much. And so, but now as an adult, and you want to teach this to your kids as well, and if you are a kid, you need to pay attention to like when enough is enough, because it starts to get to a point where now you hear a lot of podcasts talking about like burnout, you know, people like not even enjoying video games anymore, not even enjoying the leisure, like just having too much stimulus and not just wanting to get off screens. And by the way, I'm a huge advocate for that. I do think that you need to spend a lot of times off screen. Like our company is about getting people, we literally do events where we take people, like just last week we took people to see a lighthouse and paint the lighthouse and reflect on nature and do these things. So we're all about that too. But I'm also someone that appreciates a good video game and appreciates good art forms, and I think video games done to that. But you have to pay attention to you and say when enough is enough and just go do something else, you know. But you don't want to also feel guilty about the fact that, dang, I like this game, I like this art form, it resonates with me, it lights me up, it gives me emotion, it gives me enthusiasm. You shouldn't feel bad for that either, you know. You shouldn't feel, I can't play games anymore. It's like, no, you can. But you also have to take a look at your role, going back to roles in life. Like, is it taking away from your family? Is it taking away from you as a friend? Is it hurting you professionally? You have to pay attention to that too. You want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, that too much of a good thing can make it a bad thing.
Hmm.
There's so many things in life spoiled. I think also, as we were talking about, like and repetition, and there's something else.
Chaos and
But
order, and
yeah,
finding the balance between those things.
yeah, it's interesting. So of course there needs to be a balance with video games and how often you're playing and what you're playing. Um, and what I'm thinking of is that there's also a balance between
Where you're
the
at in life, I would say too.
yeah.
Because maybe when you're 13 and you want to play a game for 50 hours a week, like, okay, you know, it's summer. But when you're 33, like in my age, you know, it's like that could tremendously damage domestic responsibilities. You know, it could hurt the relationship with my wife. You know, it could, and I'm also showing that to my son too. You
Hmm.
know, as well.
Yeah. I think a balance also affects how much you will enjoy something later. There's
That's a good
something
point. Very good point.
there's something special about something being on an occasional basis or making it rare. Like, for
Yeah, as a
example, like
treat.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So you may have a significant other, and you love your wife, and you'll love her every single day. But why is it that you have an anniversary? Why is
uh
that a
huh.
more special day?
Why is
It's
that a
like
more special day?
you know you love her the
Yeah,
same all the time, but you treat that particular day a little differently, which
right.
makes it feel
What
special.
makes it feel special, and you also do things and prepare things such that they make the day more special, and you put extra effort into it, you know. So you go through the effort of like getting a card, writing it, getting flowers. And I think that that's a good thing to do for certain things. And it's like, there's something about saying, you know what, like, I'm going to spend 3 hours of my Saturday afternoon. I'm going to play this game. And it's like you're looking forward to that day. You're like, oh wow, like I can't wait to play this game.
Yeah.
And you make that special. Yeah.
Yeah.
You assign anticipation, you assign a value to that. Whereas if you played it every day, it's not the same,
Right.
And as a gamer that's been playing now for almost 30 years, yeah, you get sick of it. It's like I don't want to play that game anymore. Like I want to do something else.
Right. And if you plan to play games with your friends, that can make it feel even more exciting. You're looking forward to that session that you're going to have. There have been many times with my friends where we get together, message each other, and say, "Hey, you guys want to play this particular game on this particular day?" And then we're all like talking about it up until that point. We're excited. We're
You're building up that
hype.
anticipation, the hype,
Yeah, and
getting those vibes there,
makes the session feel more special.
Yeah.
But if we're not planning anything and it's just an everyday thing in and out, it'll get stale faster, and it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. And that's something to acknowledge on the scientific front, because there's a lot of neurochemicals that play into pleasure, and dopamine being one of them. And there's a lot of talk of this online. I certainly listen to a lot about this online because of the nature of my work. And so you can really build a healthy amount of anticipation when you do things on an occasional basis. And then what happens is that you end up enjoying that thing a lot more. You really do. And whether you realize it or not, you're going to look back on that experience. Oh, remember that time? Like, we do this all the time. Like, man, remember that one game that we played? And it's like, oh, we look back on that with nostalgia and with awe and with joy. And so we can see how we built that, And like, then you look forward to the next time that you do it. It's like, oh, when are we going to play this next? Like, oh, I'll wait. Like, I remember I've done this intentionally. There's a game that we're playing right now called For the King 2. And it's like, I'm going to say, okay, you know what? I like this game, but I'm going to do something else. So that way when I play with Arthur, it's like, yeah, like I'm going to enjoy it more when I play it with him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something else
Yeah.
I forgot to say earlier, which was it combines everything we're saying, like with the balance, how often you're participating in something. But also, I'm losing my train of thought. Go come back. Oh yeah, and also combining with the concept of discovery. So balance and discovery, and the concept of firsts. So the first time you do something is always very special, memorable, different. It's a kind of discovery. You've never done that thing before, which is why it's a first. And it hasn't been repeated yet because it's the first time. So it's like the first time you watch a movie. That this is why with some friends of mine and myself, it's like, or you, we value watching a particular episode of an anime or some other show or a movie for the first time. Like we're gonna see this movie for the first time together. It's because we're saving that special feeling, the emotions that go with,
to have a shared narrative, to have a shared experience. Right. Yeah, to experience it together. And I know that there's a lot of hunger for that now. And I know that video games, I'm glad you brought that up, because there are many times where I enjoy games. I enjoy playing games, single player, role player games in particular. But it gets lonely after a while, and video games can also become a healthy sense of community for people. Like, I coach a lot of young men that, the way they light up when they're talking to their buddies and they're doing this quest together, or they're playing Fortnite or Call of Duty, and they're on the headset and like, oh, we got to get to the extraction point. I got him, boom, boom, boom. And it's like, people like, or they're playing NBA 2K or whatever it is, like, that's not fake, that's real. And so you can't fake enthusiasm, you can't fake that joy. And so the shared narrative, the shared experience, video games can really create that in a healthy way, but yeah, again, it can be addictive. And if you're, let's face it, if you're an incel, if you're 40 years old and you're obese, you're eating Cheetos in your mom's basement, and you don't have no prospects in life, and you're just with a headset on 22 hours a day, like, yeah, that's not good. And you don't want to get to that point. Trust me, I've coached people that are on that teetering point, but that doesn't mean that you have to avoid this like the plague,
Mm-hmm.
and it can really be fun to have that shared narrative and just embark on something together,
Right.
in a healthy way.
I will say there may be times, depending on the situation, where it's good to take a sabbatical from something.
Yes.
So
Yes.
So yes, one thing is moderation. That's good. And there are other times where you step away and you fast, or you say, I'm not gonna play video games for a month or something. I mean, that'll be telling. Like
if you're a gamer and you stop playing games for a month, I think that's actually, for me, I would imagine that would be difficult.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same sort of like withdrawal symptoms that somebody would have addicted to a substance. It's like you'd be addicted to video games as well.
Yes, you can.
And it'll be very
it's
telling
habitual.
how you react
Yeah.
to being disciplined with yourself and stepping away from video games and then coming back to it. And so that might be helpful.
Yeah, I think it is helpful too, because if I remember, I've done a lot of coaching for myself and a lot of counseling for myself, and I remember there was one time where he looked at me and he said, could you give that up for a weekend? And I said, I remember the first thought is, it'd be hard, and that tells, okay, if that's the first thought that I have, that tells me where I'm at. But I didn't say that's impossible. I said it would be hard. It's like, okay, but then that tells me then more reason why you should do it, because if I always think about this myself, if you want to be like the hero in the games that you play, if you want to be that person that embarks on quests that are challenging, and you want to redeem your village, and you want to be a shining beacon of light and inspire those around you, then you have to be willing to do what you find hard, and if that means you have to step away from something, that's the dragon that you have to fight right now. That's the battle. And I always like to make those analogies, and it's like, if you do that, you do two things. One, preach, and you practice what you preach the same way that you play those games, then you embody that in the real world, and you show yourself that you can do it. And then, I guess, three things, then you can share that with others as well. And so if you find yourself in this position where you are a gamer and you're like, man, like, I can't stop, it's like, well, maybe you don't have to stop entirely, but maybe you can just take a few days off. Like, can you do that? I asked myself that, and I'll tell you, as someone who has done that, I built up a lot of healthy anticipation when I come back. And what's really funny is, like, the same way that I fast from food and drink and other things, when I fast from a game and I come back a few days later, I always notice that first session is a lot more fun. There was one game in particular that I just got burnt out. I stopped playing it for like a full month, and then when I came back, I had a renewed vigor for it, and now I'm enjoying playing it again. So that can be helpful if you find yourself in that position. If you're someone like me that really enjoys playing, but you're like, I think I need to stop for a little bit.
You mentioned the dragon, slaying the dragon. So another really big concept to video game design, I think, is critical, is the concept of having a challenge, and how tough that challenge is, because I think challenge creates purpose. If a game has no challenge and it's too easy, then it doesn't feel satisfying. If a game is way too hard and unbeatable, then it also feels unsatisfying.
Yeah, there's a zone of optimal balance between those two things.
Right. But when you do beat a challenge that was tough, you're proud of yourself. And it feels good. You surpassed the challenge, you grew, you got stronger. Now you can take on the same challenge faster and more efficiently. You can take on bigger challenges.
Oftentimes, this is referred to as colloquially getting out of your comfort zone, and psychologically, there's something known as the zone of proximal development. And so, the zone of proximal development is something that we're constantly dealing with as we mature throughout life. And so, video games, when designed properly, can give you that in a healthy way. And if you're stretched just enough, that's very satisfying. But if you're stretched too far, and you know this because you've probably done this in some way, shape, or form in life, where maybe you worked too hard and you got burnt out, and like, okay, I'm not gonna do that again, or it's like, this is too easy. It's like same old, And finding that middle point in a video game is challenging, because, and that's also the reason why game modes are important, and that's also why you have different levels of difficulty.
Yeah. I think of another game that.
Don't worry, I'm gonna spoil it. Let's see if I know it. Let's play.
There's a particular MMO.
Massive multiplayer online role-playing game.
Massive multiplayer online role-playing game that I used to play and used to enjoy a lot. I think this is the perfect case of a game being challenging and then became not as challenging and became very unsatisfying to a lot of people.
It's I think it's the universe of magic.
What do you mean?
Like the spin I'm giving it on that game, the universe of magic.
Okay.
As opposed to the watermelons, the watermelons of, I don't even know.
Are you referring to a particular game?
I am. Is it not?
I don't know.
Is it not
I don't
that
know if we're
one?
talking about the same one, or maybe I'm just not understanding what your reference is.
Oh no.
But
it's not it's not el mundo de I don't even know
Spanish.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you probably are referring to the same game. So in this particular case, convenience, in my opinion, became a problem. And maybe there's another point we can talk about.
Yeah.
Of something
becoming too convenient.
And
it is because I think I know you're referencing. There was a particular meaning to having a certain class or job or race, because you could make a portal and you could teleport people, and that became redundant because they no longer needed that person.
Right. So imagine. Imagine you. So this goes back to the concept of
purpose and objective and discovery.
Challenge.
Yeah.
The concept of scarcity.
Scarcity versus abundance, right?
So, okay, in this particular game, the concept of portals, I think it's a perfect example. So
it is this game. I knew it.
A long time ago, there were very specific, limited ways to travel great distances. You save a lot of time by taking a portal, and there was a class that the mage, who could summon a portal, and another class that could do something similar as well. But just sticking to the mage, by making that limited, it made that particular type of faster, convenient travel more satisfying to the person actually making the portal,
and also made them important too to have in their team.
Yeah, it made it very important. It created a certain type of social aspect where now in the chat you need talking to rely. To
yes.
Like, hey, I need to find this particular type of person. I'll pay money, like in-game money, to take this convenient form of transportation. But then over time,
yes,
the developers of this game made it more convenient. Now you didn't need a mage; like portals just existed in different locations. So now that eliminated that itself, just totally eliminated that social. You don't need to talk to any mage anymore to do that, because you can just walk to the place where the convenient portal is.
And this is very telling, and I'm going to tell you why, because I'm going to draw a comparison between the evolution of this game in particular and just the evolution of our world. And see what I did there? Mm-hmm. Our world?
Yes.
Instead of the other world. The other world that we're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
and that, you know, it's become more and more convenient for you to just like order food to your house, as opposed to just like before, you actually like you have to go pick it up,
Right.
you know. And it's like that that is the reason why a lot of the young men that I work with, and women too, but particularly I work mainly with young men, and they have a hard time. Like, case in point, okay, why video games also can be very helpful or damaging. My wife went to Panda Express last week. This was on Sunday. We went after mass, and the young man at the kiosk, looking down the whole time, like, could not even maintain eye contact with her. And my wife asked him like three separate questions, and he was just like, like not even able to have the conversation, not even able to look her in the eye. And I get it. I know it's awkward, but but when you make things so easy, that's you cripple yourself. That's what happens in these games too, because I think games were trying to make it as convenient as possible, because that's what the world was doing. The meta narrative, like convenience, and then now it's so convenient that it's like it's just boring.
Something I want to mention to that: convenience is a very
it's a slippery slope.
It's convenience is deceitful, because it's like having a worm on a lure, and then the fish sees the worm, and it's like, wow, this looks really good, and then it gets hooked. So convenience isn't necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not.
But I just want to make the point that so in this particular game, going back to it, the reason why it has continued to last, like this game still exists, people play it, many people do. I
think it's
because
top
there's something
5,
for many reasons. It's a great game for many reasons. And however, convenience is very desirable. Like, so going back to the food analogy, it's nice to go out with my family and friends to a restaurant. However, that's inconvenient because we have to get in the car, we have to drive a certain amount of time, we have to sit down, wait for the server,
for the food to come.
So there's pros and cons to it. So it's very alluring to just be like, all right, I'll just order an Uber Eats, and it'll come to the house, and we'll just eat it at the table or on the couch. It's convenient to just eat at the couch. We don't have to turn off the TV. We can keep watching.
We can just keep playing
at the same time.
Right?
Imagine we can eat and watch at the same time.
Right.
So it's very desirable, but that erodes other valuable aspects.
There's a hidden cost, I think, that people we're becoming privy to now, and I think that some games are catching on to that, because one of the beautiful things about video games as an art form is that, because going back to how we started this conversation, because we live in an age where technology and resources are very abundant, you have a lot of indie game developers that are able to pivot, and they're like, they can see something and say, okay, I'm gonna grab all onto that, and they can make something as a small team, not with a big budget, but they can make something fairly decent and make it quite good. And that's why sometimes, like, you see these games that visually they're not as appealing as an art form, but damn, are they fun to play, and it's like you want to keep playing,
right?
Yeah,
there's a reason why Minecraft is incredibly popular.
Yeah,
like,
it was sold for it was sold, and
it's the opposite of let's say Crimson Desert that recently came. That is like
so beautiful.
Realistic.
I mean, wow,
incredible.
Like it's
but both are popular,
but both are very popular for different reasons, and so the convenience element is a big problem, because I think that the people that are paying attention to their consumer base, and I'm going to use Final Fantasy XIV as an MMO, that they caught on, because sometimes we also don't know what we want. So we'll say things as a community and say, well, we want this. And then when we get it, you're like, actually, yeah, that's not fun. It's like, I actually don't want that anymore. Right. Like I remember there was a big push, and I'm gonna play some inside baseball with you right now. And in Final Fantasy 14, there was a big push to have every job or class or role be able to do a little bit of everything, so that way no one felt like they wouldn't be discluded in content. That's a big problem in MMOs, where you had these snobs that's like, oh, we don't want your class because your class does like less damage output. I don't like the role skill that you have. So and this was a big problem because then you have people that were maining, which means they were like just devoting their time to building a certain class. And it's like, well, now they're not being included in content. So then the developers say, okay, well, we can't have that. So we have to try to balance. But then they overbalanced it. And now it's like every class is the same. And it's like every class can do a little heal, every class can do a little tank, every class. Now there are classes that still will be very tanky because they're tanked and they have more health, more buffs and whatnot. But then all the tanks are the same. All the healers are kind of the same. All the DPS class are the same. So it's like then where's your flavor? Where's your hot sauce? Yeah. So now they're talking about job identity. Again, going back to the meta narrative, like the meta is like, what's my identity? Like, do I identify as this? Do I identify as that? Now they're even using it for the jobs themselves. So video games, they can really be a meta for what's going on in the real world, which I find fascinating. I don't think that's an accident, by the way. Yeah.
What this also makes me think of is the concept of what a problem is and what the solution to the problem is. So I think that issue happens because there's a particular problem. It's not like a bad problem. I mean, like, or you can use the word challenge. Yeah. There's a certain challenge and there's a certain way to surpass that challenge. So typically, in a lot of MMORPGs, that final challenge, the problem you're trying to solve, is a raid. It's like you go through all this effort, you level up to the max level, and then the end goal, or the challenge, or the problem, is that. It typically, I guess you can also divide up PvP or PvE. So
player versus player, or player versus environment or enemy.
Yeah. Right. So not to get like into the nitty gritty of that, but just to say that the reason why these certain problems, actual problems that require balancing or changes to happen, is because I think there's this goes back to the art form in designing a video game on. And it goes back to purpose as well. Like, why is the player playing this game? What challenge are they
attempting to overcome?
Exactly. So when it comes to classes, the different benefits or perks that you get to choose, like, what are those solving for? So that can apply to many different games. I think a well executed or a well thought out strategy on how you design the balance between a challenge and the way you surpass the challenge. Or you can swap this out with any other words, but like the tools. How are you designing the tools, and what purpose does the tool have?
What the purpose does the tool have?
If those tools don't have a purpose to resolve anything, then that tool loses meaning, loses value.
And that happens a lot in games too, where you see a lot of going about inside baseball. You see a lot on the forums. Like, this is something also very telling, and the reason why, whether or not you're a gamer, I think you should pay attention to it. The amount of time that they'll go on Reddit, and there are Reddits and subreddits and subreddits, and the amount of time that people will spend arguing these things, that tells you that it's important to them. And so you have to be, even as a non-gamer, you have to understand that there are people that care about this, like, genuinely. I mean, there are people that spend a lot of their life, because this is their only source of community sometimes.
Can I chime into that?
Yeah.
So I think the reason why people become obsessed with anything, or in this particular case, game obsessively, is because for them that gives them
a lot of meaning and purpose and significance.
It makes them feel valuable. So, like, in going back to the thing about maining a class, or devoting like
your time to playing some role,
is because that person will feel useful, like they can participate with the rest of their friends or the community by playing this particular class, even though everyone else plays the same class.
Right.
They will sacrifice being unique for feeling valuable in that particular way.
And so that's a good point. And so there are typically in role playing games, there are three main rules. You have a tank, you have a healer, and you have a damage dealer, or a DPS. This is something known, which is an acronym for damage per second. So the damage per second class obviously is someone that can deal a lot of damage, hurt a lot of monsters, and can take some hits, but not many. So you have to be careful. A healer is someone that will typically provide support to their party, and they will heal the party. So if a DPS or a tank takes damage, the healer will heal them, provide buffs, shields, something like that. And then a tank is someone who's on the front lines, who will take the majority of the damage, who can also maybe provide some support to the other roles as well. And depending on the game you play, there are classes and sub roles. There are support classes. It can go in any way, but those are the three main, right? And so I, as a player, I get the most amount of meaning and significance because of my personality, because of who I am, who I identify as. I want to be the tank. I want to be the front lines. I want to be the one who leads from the front. I want to be the guy that is going to take the hits and be there to make sure that no one else gets hurt. That's what I did. So that gives me meaning. So yeah, like that's me. Like that's who I am as a father. That's who I am as a coach. That's who I am as a son. That's who I am as a husband. Like I want to be the guy in the front lines that is making sure that you're not going to hurt them. Like your problem is with me. So that's why I identify a lot with that. Yeah.
So now I'm thinking of how this just directly
Start sweating from that. Ooh, I get excited. Yeah.
It ties back to real life and the role that you're playing, the role you're pursuing, career path, where that may be, the talents that you're building and how you use those talents. You're choosing. I was going to say you're choosing to be a tool, but that doesn't sound right.
Well,
you're choosing
to be useful as a tool in some particular way.
It's just like sometimes you ever heard when people say like,
"Oh, it's a tool." Yeah, yeah, it's derogatory. Yeah,
I guess the way we say this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it. So the way this ties back, the way I see how this ties back, there's a certain tool for everything. There's a certain way to surpass a challenge, and that gives you purpose and value. And in real life, hopefully it's encouraging to you that there are many, many ways to contribute and to feel a sense of value.
Yeah. One of the beautiful things about games, again, is they can be an escape, and I think they can be a healthy escape because we all need to step out. I think we're disenchanted, especially. I mean, Arthur and I are at an age right now. We're both 33. And I think that a lot of people become disenchanted at this age because we're at the point now. I don't want to speak for you, but we've talked about this a lot. It's like we're at the point where we've seen some stuff, like we've lived some. And we can fall into the trap of like same old, because like, and especially when you've been playing games for 30 years now, it's like same old, right? And so we're also giving a perspective from, I guess, been there, done that, but we still play. But our point is that, at least my point is that you can find a lot of enchantment in fantasy. And I think video games are one very, very, very effective medium and tool for that when it's done right. I think that sums up my position, I would say, as where I'm at with games right now. And what I'm also teaching to my son, what I want him to get. I personally am like, I can't wait for this kid to play this game, watch this show, do this with
Right.
me. You
And
know,
you guys can
like
play the games together.
play the
and
games
grow a bond in
together,
that way too.
grow a bond in that. You know,
Yeah.
having it be a source of recreation, but not the source of recreation.
Yeah.
Right.
And both of you will build certain skills from playing video games together as well.
Negotiation is a big one. I'll be lying to you. I learned a lot about negotiation from certain games that I play. Helped me to negotiate in boardrooms with people. Helped me to negotiate contracts. Helping me, you know, you know, have things saved in my back pocket. Have a trump card in case. Like that's also something that some games will do. You know, like you save something in your back pocket. It's like aha, boom, there it is. I got you. You know. Like you learn that from games, you know. Games can teach you that. Yeah.
All kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. So we hope that this was valuable to you. I pray that you entered this conversation. You're leaving armed with a better perspective on video games as an art form, and maybe what to play next, or what not to do next, or what not to play next, or who to share this with. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Yeah, God bless.